So this girl, Sonia, and I, we're both 27 now, dated for a couple of years in college. Wonderful girl. She had like the best taste in music and sense of humor, and was and is just the coolest person. I had to move across the country for grad school and broader work opportunities. That's the only reason we fell out of touch. But in the last couple of months, we've been catching up. She called me out of the blue to let me know she heard from one of our mutuals that I was living nearby, and it turns out she was the next state over. I caught up with her parents, met her fiancé, Mark, and we all got along, and they wanted me to attend their wedding this July, so I did. After the important part of the wedding was over, you may kiss the bride, the vows, yada yada, I made sure to congratulate her and her man, and then I just went over to the open bar. I guess I was bored or just not paying that much attention because I had a lot to drink, and I was kind of wasted already before the reception started. So I took Sonia's dad aside and told him I was leaving and to tell the bride and groom I just didn't feel well. But Mark saw me and told me I had to stick around a bit longer and go to the reception since it was the best day of their lives. I wasn't thinking the clearest, so I was like, sure. Mistake. I was just sitting at the reception trying to eat like a normal person when I just started crying. I really don't cry that often, so I guess I have to blame the alcohol. I apologized and got out of there fast, but I know I must have made some kind of scene because the next day I got a phone call from Mark saying I ruined their wedding and I needed to give Sonia and the rest of the family a formal apology in person. Sadly, though, I've hit my yearly limit of humiliation, so I told him, "How about no?" and hung up. Sonia's not upset and doesn't consider her wedding ruined, but she thinks I should apologize to Mark, just on principle, so we can continue getting along the way we do, and that I did do a wrong thing technically by getting so intoxicated and leaving early. While she's right on that end, I did do my time at the wedding, and the only thing that could have potentially been ruined was the reception, so I don't know. Am I the idiot for getting really intoxicated and leaving my ex-girlfriend's wedding early? Just so happened to get intoxicated? I just so happened to cry for no reason. What are you not telling us or yourself? You are the idiot. Dude, you got intoxicated, started crying because you saw what you lost, and refused to say sorry because you don't want to face the reality. Anytime you go to someone else's event and get so wasted that you can't control your emotions, you are an idiot. Well, he was pressured into staying, so it's in everyone's the idiot here at best. A wedding is an event, not a prison sentence. OP was invited to go, not ordered. To be clear, I'm not on OP's side. He pretty clearly is in love with the bride. I just think we're ignoring an important part of the story. Oh boy, I would never talk to them again. And if I saw them in public, walk right past them. Maybe I'm a coward and all, but I don't think OP owes them another round of cringe. That's why no exes at the wedding is a thing. I disagree. You do owe an apology. You were irresponsible and made a scene. If you have to look your intoxicated mistake in the face, the shame will burn itself into you enough that you won't get so bored you forget that shots aren't a bowl of chips that you can absent-mindedly entertain yourself with consuming. Mark didn't know how intoxicated you were when he asked you to stay, nor did he know you had unresolved feelings. He asked you to stay because he wanted you to celebrate. He didn't force you. It was on you to know your limits and to leave before you embarrassed yourself. OMG, he's not in love. He's just like other single intoxicated people at weddings who are feeling sad sack because they're all alone. He doesn't necessarily want her, but she is the type he wants, and nothing was wrong with her. It was just stupid life in grad school. And what did grad school get him? Nothing but debt and no +1. And now she's beautiful and in love, and he's all alone. Did I mention how alone and how great she was? And he threw it all away for a degree that he's still paying for when he could be listening to cool music and laughing with a beautiful girl. It's not her. It was the idea of her in that intoxicated, depressing moment. Clearly, none of you have spent any time with intoxicated women at weddings. My husband, 40, is a doctor. I, 29 female, don't work. I got married and had my kids, a young grammar school male, a preschool male, and a toddler female, soon after graduating from college. So I've never had a real job. I planned on working for a couple of years and had a few job offers, but my daughter happened sooner than we'd planned, so I just stayed home. While it is quite nice that I can afford to stay home, money was not the main reason I married my husband. I love him because of his personality. My stepsister, 30, has 3 children, preteen female, a young grammar school male, and a young male toddler. I babysit them fairly often. A few days ago, my parents had a barbecue at their house. My 5th anniversary was a few weeks ago, and my husband got me a diamond eternity band and a tennis bracelet. I showed those to my mom when my stepfather and stepsister walked over. My stepdad asked my stepsister when she was getting a ring. She gave me a dirty look and said, "Not everybody can afford to waste thousands of dollars on a shiny rock." I tried to be the bigger person and told my stepdad that she didn't need a ring, and it was obvious her boyfriend loved her a lot, whether she had one or not. She told me to screw off with my fake sympathy. I asked her if she woke up on the wrong side of the bed today, and she said, "Some people actually have things to worry about. A useless little gold digger who's never worked a day wouldn't understand." I was quite offended, but I don't like confrontation, so I just smiled and told her to tell me if she needed help with anything. She said that she didn't need my charity and accused me of trying to make her and her family feel bad by flaunting my expensive jewelry. I reminded her that she chose to walk over and join our conversation. She said it's hard to feel happy when she and her boyfriend still rent a house and can't afford special stuff for themselves and their kids while working long hours. I was done with her BS, so I basically told her that that was their problem and there was nothing I could do about that. She said that her kids feel awful when they see all the nice things that my kids have, and her daughter really wanted to be a ballerina and do gymnastics, but she can't afford it, so she has to watch her cousin do everything that she dreamed of doing. I told her to stop being a jealous witch, and that if she didn't want her kids to be jealous, then I won't babysit them anymore. She called me insensitive and said that I've always been given everything I want, and I'm spoiled. I didn't want to engage with her anymore, so I left to talk to my sister-in-law. My stepsister left the barbecue immediately after that and is still mad at me. My mother thinks I should apologize to keep the peace. Am I the idiot? Edit. My post isn't very clear on everything. My sister and her boyfriend aren't married or engaged and have been together for 4 years. They don't have degrees and work low-wage jobs, and we live in California, so everything is insanely expensive. My stepdad was asking her when they were getting engaged. Not the idiot. If your stepsister wants to throw insults, she can't be surprised when you clap back, especially when you defended her and regularly babysat her children. You're perfectly within your rights to defend yourself, and it's you who's owed an apology. Tell your mother that you didn't start this fight, and you won't apologize for finishing it, but you will accept her apology when she's ready to give it. Until then, you two should steer clear of each other, and don't babysit for her until she apologizes. OMG, stepdad's the idiot too, for tossing that grenade at a family gathering. OP, I think your stepdad has a bigger part in this than you think. How often does he make comments like this? She's clearly struggling, and having her father make comments like that while you admittedly are showing off your wealth and gifts to your mother. Money was indeed a factor in your marriage. You got with a man 11 years your senior in your early 20s and lived a luxurious life without working for it. You're in an extremely privileged position. I don't think it excuses her behavior, but I really would give her some understanding here. Does she see you as the golden child? If you're favored a lot more throughout her life, It can cause a huge amount of built-up resentment. She didn't walk into this conversation. Your stepfather threw her into the conversation by insulting her. She's likely been compared to you by him multiple times, while having her daughter blame her for not being rich enough and marrying a rich man. You're not the idiot, but I think you know she did hit some truths here. My ex-wife and I had one son, Albert. When we split up, we both remarried. I remarried my current wife, and we have a daughter and a son. She remarried as well, and she had 2 sons. However, she divorced her husband, remarried, and had another kid. So we'll call her second husband Carl and her current husband Dan. Now here's the problem. Carl is my ex-wife's ex-husband. He's not related to my son. He's just Albert's former, emphasis on former, stepfather. Carl wants to maintain a relationship with Albert, but apparently my ex told him to kick rocks and that his biological kids are the only kids he's entitled to see. Carl eventually decided that he would go through me since he wasn't making any headway with my ex. I shut that down. I hardly know Carl, and what little I do know of him irritates me. He told me he bonded with Albert and doesn't want him to have abandonment issues. I talked to Albert. He feels no abandonment issues, and when I asked him if he missed Carl, he said no. Carl said I'm an insensitive idiot. He asked me how I would feel if I was told I could never see one of my kids again. I said Albert isn't one of his kids, so stay away from him and leave me the heck alone. My wife said I was a little intense with my statement, and she kind of understands where Carl is coming from, because if we were ever to, God forbid, split up, she would miss Albert too. I don't see how that's my problem. My ex is the one who married him, not me. He needs to talk to her. Apparently, Dan hates Carl, and that's why Carl can't see Albert. But why is that my issue? I feel no obligation to this man. Am I the idiot for that? Edit. He was Albert's stepdad for 7 years, basically. So it appears in this situation that no one likes Carl. Sorry, Carl, you're out. Not the idiot at all. You asked your son. He said he didn't miss his former stepdad. So you're good. The most important person to consider is Albert. You were right to give Albert some say on the matter. Good for you for saying no. Carl was wrong to try to go to you over this. You handled it well. He shouldn't have gone through you and not your problem, but he was there for a pretty big part of his upbringing, and it's understandable to try. Honestly, makes me never want to be a stepdad, raise a kid and be there, both financially and otherwise, just to be told to screw off. Although then, there's the why. Why did they divorce? Why do both you and your new husband not like him? Then also the part of the siblings. If now he'll forbid your kid from seeing his siblings, if he has custody that day or week. Although with 2 baby daddies and a husband, there's bound to be plenty of issues to come. He was Albert's other dad for 7 years. 7? That's not an insignificant amount of time. And I'd also be heartbroken not to have access to Albert anymore. He's trying to do his best for his son and is being told to screw off for caring about a kid he raised. Imagine if, instead, he just showed up, only took his kids, took them on amazing days out, and totally left your lad out of it. That would be crappy. Instead, he wants to include him and is taking crap for it. What is wrong with you? You are the idiot. Kindness goes a long way. My sister and brother-in-law were abusive parents to my niece, Charlotte. I always tried to protect her, but my wife and I could only get custody 3 years ago. We adopted her, and she's a good kid at heart, but she still struggles a lot. She's still in therapy and has come so far, but finds it difficult to accept unconditional love and that kids don't have to be perfect. While she's usually fine with my wife and me, she still sometimes sees our daughter, Chloe, as ungrateful and spoiled. I've worked hard on this, and it's a lot better, but sometimes it still comes up in their teenage squabbles. It's not perfect, but the girls generally get along. Last Friday, they had an issue. I was at work, so this is based on what I was told after. Chloe refused to do any of her chores and argued about it with my wife. Charlotte jumped in and basically called Chloe lazy and said that she should be a better daughter like her. Apparently, my wife got angry and told her off. She reminded her that she was lucky we were taking care of her and to stay out of it. From there, it got worse. My wife says that Charlotte was extremely rude about Chloe, but she also admits that she told Charlotte that we didn't have to take care of her, and that basically, unlike Chloe, we can send her back to her parents if she keeps it up. Ignoring the fact we legally cannot, that's just completely messed up. They ended their fight with Charlotte just going to my parents for the night, and she's been really upset and withdrawn since. My wife filled me in when I got home, and I was honestly pretty furious. The first thing that came to mind was, "What the heck is wrong with you?" Which admittedly wasn't a productive response, but I was honestly just floored. The issue is that Charlotte doesn't get that a kid deserves unconditional love, even if they're not perfect. So you tell her that you'll kick her out if she doesn't behave? All the progress I worked with on her will be shut back again. I was mad, and we fought about it. I get she can be difficult, but that was inappropriate. However, she still refused to apologize or anything. I've tried to explain to her that we love her and that it wasn't meant the way it was said, but my wife is just accusing me of babying and favoring Charlotte. Apparently, I'm being unreasonable, thinking what she did was disgusting, that I should care more about Chloe as if this is a competition. I'm still honestly pretty angry at her, while she claims I'm unreasonable and being a crap dad to Chloe. Not the idiot. Charlotte has just been told that she's not loved and wanted. She was told she would be sent back to her parents to live if she didn't behave. Your wife has single-handedly confirmed Charlotte's worst fears. Kids squabble, but your wife threw gasoline on a burning match. Exactly. Your wife was cruel. It's literally that easy to undo the work you're doing to make Charlotte feel like she's part of the family. I mean, that's literally Disney villain level stuff, and that she doesn't get that as a red flag. Sounds like your wife isn't as okay with your niece being part of your family as she should be. You're not being unreasonable at all, and clearly, you two need to further discuss why she wants to other your niece so badly. Oh, how privileged Charlotte is being born into a mom and dad who don't care for them or having to be rescued by an uncle and aunt. Ask your parent to check the definition of privileged. That poor girl. You did the right thing in telling her off for undoing what you've been trying to fix with Charlotte. Honestly, though, all of you need to be in therapy. Chloe, because it sounds like she resents Charlotte. Your wife, because it sounds like she didn't want Charlotte. You, because you're dealing with all the mess. I have a college account for each kid. They all have around $50K at the moment. Now, my oldest went to a trade school, and we used his account to pay for that. It was relatively cheap. My daughter went to a small, cheap community college before she dropped out. She's now married and a stay-at-home mom, so both accounts still have a ton of money, and the two kids are well established at this point. The oldest makes 6 figures at this point, and my daughter married well off, and if they divorced, she would get a lot. So I emptied the accounts to use for my retirement. I mentioned it at dinner, and they were angry, saying they still deserved the money, even though it was for college only, and they never put a cent in it. They both called me an idiot. They asked why I could retire early. I told them the reason. I wasn't going to hide it. They knew the money was in the account. It would have come up eventually if not for them, but asking if they could use the extra for their kids. So, am I the idiot for using my kids' college accounts for my retirement? Not the idiot. You paid for their education with your money. Whatever's left over is yours to do what you want. I mentioned it at dinner. Mother of God, why? Stop telling people stuff. Put people on information diets. Oversharing puts you in this position. Yeah, there was no need to tell them anything. LOL. We save a reasonable amount for our kids' education, and my wife and I will approve all uses of this money before they get access to any of it. After education is paid, if they're responsible people, we will gift them the balances toward a home purchase. And if they don't have their crap together, we will retire early. It's heartbreaking that your kids turned out so greedy that they're angry you don't want to gift them the money you saved up for their education, and they didn't fully use it, rather than being happy for you that it allows you to retire early, especially if they're both very well off now. I would, in fact, scold my parents. Why didn't they use the money sooner for their retirement? Because, I love them? Were they always this greedy? Or did the greed come with the higher incomes? OP, you are not the idiot, but it sure sounds like you raised a couple of entitled ones.